Man, this is nice. I'm in a cool castle. It belongs to one of my husbandos. You know, nothing can go wrong in this Nightopia, especially since I have managed to keep all my idea. I mean, most of them are kind of useless, but it's still neat. I mean, with all this going on, what could possibly happen next? So, oh my God, Supreme King, are you okay?
Glad to see you're concerned for my sake.
Oh, please. Visitors can't die in Nightopia anyway. Why are you in my Nightopia?
Oh, ask the Ditto Merchant. He hired some other Jester in Red to send me here. Something about me needing a Dreamworld ability or something. By the way, why is my avatar a green-haired girl?
Oh, well, this is technically my Nightopia based off of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime series, and she is a Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V girl, so...
Okay, but why? I haven't finished Arc 5 yet.
Well, she is the one who uses Wind Witches and...
Oh, that explains it. Well, since that's settled, can you show me the door to the Dream Gate?
Well, that's the thing. Due to my heart being weird when making this world, the door can only be opened with a commentary.
What? You know, I would argue, but it's a dream. It makes some sense, I guess.
Well, I would love to help you out, but I am, busy, so, have fun material hunting.
Oh, don't worry. I snagged some material from that Jester before I fell here. Besides, I don't think you'd know much about Night's Journey of Dreams anyway.
Wait, it's nice material? Can you guys please leave us alone for like a second?
But your highness.
I asked nicely. I wanted co-op and I refuse to take no as an answer.
Perfect! I've already got the intro card ready.
So before we truly start the commentary, some context is probably needed. Meet Tony Sonic, a YouTuber who does the occasional countdown here and there, but mostly makes CinemaSins videos on another YouTuber by the name of Chari5, who also makes CinemaSins parodies on video games like Undertale, No More Heroes, and the topic of our video today, Night's Journey of Dreams. And surprise, surprise, we had issues.
In other words, we're covering a CinemaSins parody on a CinemaSins parody. Now, can we cut the context short? I want to leave and I don't like the way that skeleton's looking at me.
Skull Knight be nice. Lucky is our guest, not a sacrifice.
I beg your pardon?
Well, how else are we supposed to get Super Polly?
So have you sacrificed anyone else in the cloud?
Let's get started!
Yeah, keep this little I don't hate Chari, this is just criticism disclaimer in mind, because I'll get to this later.
Welcome to my house!
Sonic Team.
What the fuck? I'm sorry, I didn't know I was playing a horror game.
You're playing a game about dreams. With any dreams comes nightmares.
What? Our first point, and it makes absolutely no sense. Charlie was making a point based on how the Sonic Team logo came out suddenly with a mysterious childlike voice, basically giving him an accidental jump scare. How does a game being about dreams that also comes with nightmares, which technically is untrue as nightmares are dreams, but not all dreams are nightmares, but details, relate to this in the slightest? Trick question, it doesn't.
Now, you could make the argument, oh, but he still said the game for it, therefore he's treating it like a problem, in which case I have to direct you to CinemaSins themselves, since the everything wrong with part of the title is more there for hyperbole. Sure, there are times where they make serious criticisms, but there are also times where the sin is just there for a ha-ha funny joke. Even on the video where they riff on themselves, they flat out say,
"We're not reviewers, we're assholes."
Which would imply that every sin isn't a serious critique on the show. Actually, going back to that video, they also say,
"The sin counts have no real value because we feel that if they did, they'd lose their real value."
Which is them flat out admitting that sins have no real value, so getting mad over making a joke sin is a little silly when the people who founded this genre said that sins don't really mean anything. Oh, well, that's a problem with the format inherently, so CinemaSins and Chari are both wrong for doing this. Well, by that logic, Tony Sonic would still be wrong, since, spoiler alert, he's just as guilty as most of the things he criticizes Chari, and by extension CinemaSins parodies in general for, but that's something you'll see for yourselves in due time.
Ah, yes, because all British children go to sleep with a football as their waifu.
Or, this is the game subtly showing that Will is a football player. I know you were making a joke and all, but you still use it as a sin.
Subtle? Yeah, that's as subtle as me saving for the next edgy sad boy I see with an eyesight. Eh?
No, don't look at me. I'm just here to get fridged.
Wait, I thought you didn't watch ArcV.
I read the wiki.
Oh.
Regardless, there are more subtle ways to show off that he's a soccer player. He could have had a soccer trophy be displayed on his nightstand, or even some soccer-themed blankets or something would look a little less ridiculous than a kid cuddling the soccer ball like it's a teddy bear.
Heck, if we want to compare Will to Helen, we see Helen sleeping next to her violin as opposed to, say, cuddling her violin case like it's this giant stuffed animal. At the very least, in comparison to Will, it does a much better job at being a more subtle way of showing off Helen's main interests.
Also, while this introduction was mainly meant to be humorous, it's also possible that it was meant to make a minor point about how it wasn't that subtle.
Wait, don't you have to wear a uniform for practice? Yeah, these kids are wearing uniforms, why isn't this one? You could say he's not part of the team, but then what's the point of using the cones?
Considering that he's dreaming, nah fam, just go with it.
Fun fact, Chari actually got something wrong here, since you could see him wearing a red uniform under a vest and some cargo shorts. Even then, it's just practice. As long as he's wearing cleats, it's not like he's unable to play.
Now, Tony's point isn't necessarily incorrect per se. However, it also just kind of doesn't do much to refute Chari's point by going, it's just a game, fam, anything can happen. Essentially, when I argue that it would have been much better to point out that Chari was actually incorrect with Will not wearing a uniform of some kind.
We interrupt Knight's journey of dreams to bring you Silent Hill.
Chari makes a video game reference that isn't a sin of the game cliche.
Could also be a complaint towards the drastic change in tone, but hey, no fun allowed.
Alright, viewers, take a shot for every time Tony Sonic complains about Chari doing anything like making a joke point. Actually, on second thought, don't. I'm pretty sure that if you actually took shots every time, you would get alcohol poisoning. Me, on the other hand, I'm willing to subject myself to pain.
It's a good thing I'm a soda addict.
You won't be after the NFT's attack.
Hey, yo! Mary Davis!
Holy shit, I am playing a horror game!
Chari sins the same thing twice cliche.
Tony, I shouldn't be on shot number 3 this fast. I am keeping a tally for final thoughts. That is a promise.
Also, if you want to play this drinking game on hard mode, take a second shot every time Tony repeats a point he already made, because for someone who hates repetition, he sure loves to do it a lot.
Luxor, I told him not to play it to avoid alcohol poisoning. Do you want us to get sued?
I take it that this is your first time here. Whoa! I am Owl.
Yes,
I have lived
you
here
are.
since-
Seriously, can people not come up with original names when naming their animal characters?
Well, it was either that or come up with a pun, and I'm pretty sure you'd attempt to sin that too.
Or, hear me out. We could just use a normal name. Like, if we want to have a bit of depth to our names, then considering that Owl is supposed to be our wise character, we could just use several names that happen to mean wisdom, wise, or smart, such as Sage, Alfred, Cuthbert, Ralph, and more. Honestly, there are potentially several more creative solutions to giving Owl a name that would best represent his general character, while also not just sticking to Owl.
Also, love the assumption that he would automatically send the name just because it's a pun. What if he thought the pun was clever? And even if he didn't, would that be a problem with it being a pun at all, or it being a poorly made pun? Unless you can prove to me that you have the power of clairvoyance, neither of us would know.
Okay, no offense, Owl, but could you please land so that we don't have to hear your uncomfortable wings flapping?
You must have really sensitive hearing if you think Owl's wings flapping are uncomfortable.
Hey, I think the wing flapping sounds a bit too loud in comparison to nice music scales.
But have you ever considered how that's your fault for having sensitive hearing instead of the sound designers for making the flapping sound effect louder than the music?
Well, how do you want me to fix that? I can't magically make my ears bend to my limbs to fix game audio balancing.
Being serious though, the flapping sound is noticeable, and the way it constantly happens throughout the scene is a little annoying. You could argue that it's a minor flaw, but people are allowed to complain about little things that bother them.
Dualize.
Oh, dualizing allows your bodies to assimilate with one another. It's probably much easier to understand if you just try it. Go over and touch Knights. You'll see what I mean.
Oh my god, that was all one huge allegory for—
Oh no, I'm not gonna let you finish. Unless we're dealing with M-rated games, this channel is rated a very strict teen.
Well, joke's on you! You had the funny we were here for a split second, therefore a sin for you!
How dare you imply that scene was a sexual innuendo? Don't you know those are forbidden in CinemaSins parodies? Therefore, I'm going to treat this as a problem with your video, even though this only affects me. Oh, and if you want to defend this by saying it was a joke...
I know you were making a joke and all, but you still use it as a sin.
So it's okay for you to make a sin about something that doesn't affect your target's quality, but it's bad when Shari does it. Pick your poison.
Also, this point does not contain a lap dance.
These are just human chow, and I'm 100% not okay with that.
Chari makes a Sonic the Hedgehog reference while pointing things out on the screen cliche.
So, welcome to another episode of Whoops, Chari actually got something wrong. So, as it turns out, the Nighttopians came before the Chow. In the original Nights into Dreams for the Sega Saturn, you were actually able to raise the Nighttopians in the Nighttopians A-Life system. And you were able to infect their moves via interacting with them, and were even able to merge with them when any nightmare is in the game, to create a lovable abomination, I mean hybrids! This system was then used as the base for how you interact with the Chow in Sonic Adventure. What's very funny about this is that during research, I actually found a much better comparison to make, because while the first game had the A-Life system for the in-game levels, Journey of Dreams has My Dream, aka the Nighttopian Garden, a Chow Garden inspired area where you're able to take care of the Nighttopians and have the area be affected by the weather, as well as special holidays like Christmas, albeit a lot more basic when compared to the Chow Garden of SA1 and especially SA2. So, had Chari decided to focus on these that were outside of the main story cutscenes, I argue he could have had a much stronger point. As of right now though, this oddly doesn't work, only because of who technically came first.
However, since Tony never brought this up, let's presume that they were. Chari's point wouldn't just be a reference to something, it would be implying that Sega just repackaged a popular aspect from a different series and threw it into Nights as an attempt to pander to the same audience. Now, you could also argue how that's not inherently a bad thing either, since being heavily inspired by something doesn't make it bad. As he said, the Chow were inspired by Nighttopians after all. But you don't do that, and instead just repeat your, oh, you made a reference point, which does nothing but point out he made a reference, which makes it a rather shallow critique.
If you can get into the cell and then duelize with Knights, the both of you will be able to escape.
Really?
Yes, of course. The effect will not last long, however. You'll need to get the keys back from the guards before being dragged back to the cell.
Owl? Will's just a kid. You expect him to go all Solid Snake even though he just got to the Night Dimension.
To be fair, he did practice with Knights beforehand, so it's not like he's going in completely blind.
And again, both points have their problems. Since Chari's phrasing this like you have to pull off a stealth section to save Knights, when really all you have to do is climb the train and duelize with Knights. The Nightmares don't even interact with you while you're human. And even if he's referring to the act of getting the keys after you duelize with Knights, that's not all too complex either. Just dash into the birds with Knights and fly into the cage. Problem solved.
But even if that wasn't the case, how would practicing dualizing with Knights by flying and making loop-de-loops help him bust Knights out of the makeshift prison that they are in, Tony? Especially in the moments when they aren't dualized? Like at that moment? I'll answer it for you, it doesn't.
I love icing. Beware the child. Tick, tick, boom.
Retrieve the remaining 4, idiot, and your heart will win out over the Nightmare.
Gee, no pressure or anything.
I mean, is there? You can just go back to the real world, can't you? By all means, you're still asleep, right? I know this is all technically real, but how does that work? The transition between Night Dimension to the human dimension.
Whenever a human falls asleep, their consciousness is transferred to the Night Dimension. It's explained that the only way they go back to the real world is when the Awakener comes to collect them. They don't just wake up automatically, and if their consciousness is killed here, they die in the real world. In other words, think A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, so this was a horror game then.
And there's the lore point. So Tony, I have to ask, where are you getting this lore? Because from both me and Lux are going through about 2 hours worth of cutscenes and doing a wiki dive to look to stuff, this is absolutely incorrect.
Let's start off with the only the Awakener can wake them up point, because that actually has several problems with it. For those who don't know, the Awakeners are basically these ghosts that appear whenever you take too long on the levels where you're separated from Knights, or when you spend too long lollygagging in the overworld instead of freeing Knights, you utter monster. They spawn pretty rapidly, and when 3 of them get you, you get a game over that says night over with a bright sunny day, implying you've woken up. First of all, this is never mentioned in the main story. Sure, it's brought up on a hint on the select screen, and there are a couple times where if you wander around the Dream Gate or the first world as Will or Helen, then Owl might mention them to you. But all of those are completely skippable. The main story itself never mentions them, so if what you're saying was true, then Chari would be right to be confused since you'd have to go out of your way to find that detail. However, as I've been implying, Tony's wrong. Remember that game over screen I mentioned? Yeah, that happens every time you fail a mission. Whether it be running out of time on the Knight's rescue missions, or failing to keep in time with giant music notes. It says, the night's over, implying you've woken up. Which means failing any mission can cause you to leave Nightopia. And to further prove this point wrong, on the loading screen, it also keeps track of how many times you've played the game. These are referred to as the first night, the second night, the third night, etc. Which would imply that these escapades are done throughout multiple nights. Which means that Will and Helen have been able to leave Nightopia at will for quite some time.
The second point about how if you die in the night dimension, you die in the real world is also incorrect. The closest thing you get to that is the Dark Ocean being told to destroy the soul of the visitor. And even then, in the one case when someone tried to kill a visitor via that method, that being when Wiseman was trying to kill Helen during the first ending, it is shown that you can basically avoid that by having enough courage that your red area gives you the magic power of flight. In any other instance, the most that nightmares can do is either take your idiots like they did in the beginning of the game, or if they are Riala, then they can make portals to send you to other Nightopias. They have never been shown the ability to kill a visitor outright. Again, the most you get is a night over.
Suddenly Tentacool.
Chari makes a Pokemon rap.
Tony Sonic sings the same thing 3 times cliche.
6 shots! I'm, starting to feel buzzed.
Well, if you just drank Diet Dr. Pepper like most other sane people.
You're not my dad, Luxter. Nor are you sane.
I'm not letting you do that.
Tisk tisk, the visitor's life is in my hands. You can just stay right where you are. That's a good boy.
I think you mean that's a good non-gender specific person. Knights doesn't have a gender. That being said, I think it's a girl, but that's just me. Next sin!
If Tony Sonic somehow screws this up.
I know there's a lot of controversy on labeling genders to non-gender characters, but people are allowed to call genderless people however they want, both in-game and out.
Okay, I don't think you were trying to be offensive here, but saying, oh, people should call gender non-conforming people whatever they want is a bit yikes, since that also implies that they're allowed to call an NB things they might not want to be called, or in other words, just allowing people to misgender them. Now, if you were just referring to fictional characters, I might have taken less umbrage with this, but you specifically say that your advice applies both in-game and out, which is a problem since at that point you're attempting to speak for actually non-conforming people.
You know, I already wasn't on board with Chari saying that Nice was a chick after he himself clarified that Nice was non-binary. But you coming in with that point, Tony? Yeah, that wasn't it, Chief. Especially since it's a valid complaint, since Nice is canonically designed as a non-binary character, because Yuji Naka wanted the residents in the dream world to not have a gender, and rather he wanted the form of the characters to be determined by the person who is dreaming. And Nice was changed to be just a boy in the localization because of the times in which the game came out, that being 2007, a time when LGBTQ plus rights weren't as widespread as they are currently.
Sorry. Oh man, I didn't see what happened and where this cage came out of. Wait, what?
It is hilarious that in a video game that focuses on a world of dreams, a magic cage materializing off screen is where your suspension of disbelief breaks.
Honestly, this doesn't really seem like a complaint with the suspension of disbelief, and more annoyance that our lead henchman can just magically create cages out of nowhere. Since if all it takes to subdue Knights is a snap of Riala's fingers, then that ends up hurting the tension due to how easily our title character can get captured. Will Knight save Will? No, because Riala activated the Magician's left hand, which prevents the activation of the first—
I suppose I only need to bring you back to Master Wiseman. But not until I get rid of this meddling little visitor, once and for all.
Then why didn't you kill him, you fool? You had him in your grasp! In fact, that was the only reason Knights didn't do anything!
So you're just going to ignore the fact that Riala has Knights captured, meaning that he can basically do anything to Will at his own leisure now? Okay then.
Yeah, like kill him. Again, Chari isn't technically right either because as said before, we have no definitive proof that nightmares are actually able to kill visitors like Will. However, since you mentioned that nightmares can kill people, then why doesn't Riala just kill Will now that Nice is captured and not just send it off to God knows where in order to get him killed? One method seems more effective than the other, and let me tell you, it's not the yeet the visitor elsewhere method.
So, does Will just keep going in circles? Is it a really long hallway? What?
He's going in circles. How is that not obvious to you?
Probably from the confusing camera angles that show him going out the room through one door and into the same room through the opposite direction, which gives the impression that this is one giant hallway. It looks like he's going in a straight line since we never see him turn.
You're the first human being I've seen in this world.
No, I was sent here from another world.
What accent do you have? Is it English or American?
Calm down, whiny. Making a big fuss over something so small doesn't make you funny. It makes you a baby.
Hey Azzy, how many times has this guy complained about Chari making references to other video? Are you okay?
I don't know. I still feel buzz. The world is slowly revolving.
Azzy's descent into chaos aside, your point is really subjective. Some people find yelling over trivial things in fiction to be funny. You don't have to find it funny. Personally, I find it grating at times. But as long as he's only ranting at the game and not using this to insult other people, it's harmless at the end of the day.
Got to hurry and get back to my own world.
Your friend?
Yeah. He's waiting for me to help him.
They're waiting for me to help him.
Oh, now you think Knights is NB.
It's the door!
No shit.
Funny how you hate it when characters point out something obvious, yet you do the same thing with absolutely no shame.
This from the guy who's been repeating his "you made a reference" and "you're saying the same thing twice" points verbatim whenever Chari dares make a running gag. I understand that a little repetition is necessary to show when something is a recurring problem, but at least Chari has some differences in how he delivers these lines to make them more comedically interesting. You just don't, which honestly makes your instances of repetition and stating the obvious worse, since at least Chari has some more variety and emotion in his delivery to try and entertain the audience. Meanwhile, all you're doing is sending Azzy's sobriety into the dark ocean.
Several Azov 101s die every year due to getting drunk from dealing with bad content. To save the Azzy population, go to wildlifepreservation.sarah.d.dust.
Wait, this is Azzy's stream. How did you get in here?
You, my mere jester, made the foolish mistake of assuming that Wild Azov 101 do not dream of watching She-Ra with Sarah Dust.
Wait, Ozzy is a species? I thought it was just isekai being real.
Wait, what isekai are you talking about?
You don't want to know.
Okay, creepy clown ball, check. Creepy chameleon dressed up as a magician, check.
Speak of the devil.
Hating the concept of humor, check. Repeating points you already made, check.
Agony!
At this point, we've made it clear that the repetition is a constant problem here, so we're just going to skip it. Don't worry though, Azzy will still lose her liver off screen.
Owl said that the reason this world is so lonely is because of my heart. If that's true, then I need to become stronger. That way, everyone in Nightopia will be stronger too.
That's right.
But why? Why is it dependent on you? I thought Nightopia was considered a real place people go to when transitioning through their dreams, but if its existence and state depend on how you are individually, then wouldn't that mean this is all exclusively in Will's head?
No. The night dimension is created through a person's inner turmoil. Every person has one, and while they are made of people's thoughts and emotions, they are still separate dimensions.
Oh, dang fuck, it's just lore. I can still save my liver. So, this is how—
So, anyway, it looks like I'm going to have to explain how Nightopia and the Night Dimension works until the toxin purifying enzymes kick in. First of all, the Night Dimension and Nightopia are two separate things. The Night Dimension is basically where every dream takes place. That said, when a visitor walks into the Night Dimension with Idia, then the Idia they have creates a Nightopia that's based off the visitor's heart.
This is the Night Dimension, the place people make their way to when they're asleep. Here in the Night Dimension, there is a world called Nightopia, created by the light of Idia. I see. Your Idia called this door into being.
So to answer Chari's question, Nightopia isn't just in Will or Helen's head, it's created through whatever Idia they have when they enter the Night Dimension.
To debunk Tony's statement, what you are describing is the Nightopia that Will and Helen travel through, not the Night Dimension. As stated before, the Night Dimension is merely where the Nightopias in the Nightmare World take place, while the Nighttopias are the actual dream worlds that are shaped by the Idia. Please stop confusing the two. You are hurting my brain enough as is.
Also, can I point out how despite all these claims Tony's making about how this world works, we have an innumerable 0 sources shown? There's no link to a wiki in the description, and even worse, there are no cutscenes from the game to show if any of this is properly explained. So even if Tony was 100% correct on all of this, it's possible that the game explained this so badly that it makes sense for Chari to be confused.
And we normally wouldn't be on to you about it this hard, but since you in your description decided to say, and I quote, Chari Bai's video on it does anger me a bit more than others, but that's mostly due to him constantly misunderstanding how the game's world works. Then pardon us if we feel the need to be harsh on you for getting stuff wrong about the in-game lore. Especially since the worst that Chari is doing is asking questions based on how admittedly confusing the lore of Journey of Dreams can be with how they are vague about explaining certain points. Also doesn't help that it feels like you made up some of these bits of lore on the spot. Like, outside of the Dark Emotion, when was the you die in the dream, you die in real life thing established? I have played this game too many times, Tony. I don't remember that in the slightest.
Oh dear, but the Nightmarans have collapsed part of a cliff, and the rubble is blocking the tracks.
What?
And when they crash into it...
Okay, don't panic. Just leave this to us. Okay, Will, you asked to see some more of my power.
Oh my god, stop talking and just go!
Relax, Knights is a fast flyer. Plus, they need a little bit to formulate a plan. Or what? Would you rather everyone just Iron Man their way to victory?
Stark, we need a plan of attack.
I have a plan. Attack.
Azzy, Sarah Berserk started murdering people in the dream world. We need to stop him!
I'm a fast runner. It'll be fine.
Oh, well, I trust your judgment, so I'll just nonchalantly continue on with my point. Or rather 3 points, since A, even if Knights is a fast flyer, they were told about a life or death situation and just decided to sit there and talk about how powerful they were. Lovely hero. B, you say they were coming up with a plan, but they didn't. In fact, it was just a longer version of what Iron Man said in that clip of yours. C, this could also be a complaint about how long the cutscene was playing, given how long Cherry held it out for.
Also, in the context of the Avengers thing, Iron Man's plan of just attack actually worked. Dummy.
We really need to get you some caffeine to help you sober up for this.
Do we really need to? This is a dream. I could be as drunk as I want.
Well, this may be a dream, but we're being filmed for our quality assurance purposes.
Wait, what?
Well done, Knights. I yield.
Hey, are you all right?
Oh, sorry. I don't know what. Oh, are you kidding me? This again?
Chari sins the same thing twice, cliche.
Really think that I could lose to the likes of you? Don't make me laugh.
Great. We win, but we don't win.
So you're sinning a villain for being smart and getting the upper hand, which is something every villain should try.
I bet you'd like Cinder from Ruby.
Look, sir, I am already willingly killing my liver. We don't need to make Avi and Sarah lose their livers, too.
But to be serious, I could understand how the heroes being one step ahead during every situation would hurt the tension, since that would make the plot really predictable. However, having the villain always be one step ahead isn't the solution to this problem. It's the opposite extreme, where it makes it hard to root for the heroes when you know the villains will literally pull a plot device out of thin air.
Especially in this context, since at this point in the story, Knights has been damseled 5 times. 3 times in Will's story, and twice in Helen's story. And we know this because after this level, we get the level where Will has to help Helen go back to her Nightopia. And we know that Will already had to be helped by Helen when he entered his second world. But if you didn't know about the other 2 times, the fact that Knights has constantly been damseled at the start of every world, especially in this case where the player won a boss fight with Riala, is annoying to say the least.
On that note, this isn't even Riala being one step ahead of Knights. In fact, their plan put them in a lot of physical pain after they got beaten up.
And really, while I'd love to stick around for that, you did hurt me a bit more than I expected.
Ah yes, put yourself in mortal turmoil for a chance at capturing knights, which you and even the bird henchmen were able to do twice without sustaining massive injuries. Which actually brings up another problem, since the bird thanes are canonically low-level Nightmarans, while Riala knights are high-level Nightmarans. So how are weak Nightmarans able to kidnap knights with no issue, yet Riala somehow takes massive beating from knights on a one-on-one fight? This shows that the story goes out of its way to have knights be captured for no other reason than the plot demanding our title character be damseled.
A whole horde of Nightmarans are attacking!
What?
They want to use the city as a base for their invasion of Nightopia. Ooh.
What do you want to do, Will? It looks like your city is in danger.
If it's in danger,
Stop talking and just go! You're going there anyway!
Chari sins to say, wait a minute, this is the No More Heroes video again, isn't it?
You know, I could pull a Tony Sonic makes a reference cliche joke here, but I'd rather draw attention to said reference, since I've seen the video Tony's referencing here, and spoiler alert, this video will be relevant later. There are defibrillators in Nightopia, right?
Look! It's Octopaw!
Why is it called Octopaw when it only has 6 tentacles? Wouldn't that make it a hexapaw? They're not even paws.
It's called Octopaw because it looks like an octopus. Again, how is that not obvious?
Because it has 6 tentacles instead of 8, which is a trait seen in squids rather than octopi, ergo it seems more like Squidward than 8-armed Willy.
Well, technically, according to my research, they are arms and not tentacles, and squids technically have 2 legs and 6 arms, and—
Are we really going to explain in immense detail how this isn't accurate to actual octopi?
Is this, or go back to killing my liver? Pick your poison.
I already have my Dr. Pepper, though.
where are we? This is my dream world. It looks like you've wandered into my world this time.
Wait, what? So this version of Nightopia is purely based off of Will's perception of it. So it's not real. We could leave the night dimension and there would be little consequence.
No, the night dimension is very much a real place. I've already explained this.
Yeah, you did explain it. Poorly.
Even worse is that Chari's point is actually wrong here, since we know that both Will and Helen are real, and that they haven't met each other in real life yet. So the fact that they can get wrapped up into each other's Nightopias like this would imply that the night dimension is a real place. Also, there's nothing in the game that said there were no consequences for leaving Nightopia. If anything, the fact that loading screens count the amount of times you log in as knights implies that you regularly do.
Fools, you think to defy a god.
It's Wiseman!
How would you know?
Knights told him about Wiseman.
Where? And if he was told about it, how would he recognize his voice?
Funny thing about that, Luxter. Tony isn't wrong. Though I will admit that Tony doesn't do the greatest job at giving any examples to prove his point. He isn't incorrect. In the first world, in the cutscene that plays during the 4th level, Knights not only name drops Wiseman, but Will hears him laugh. Let me repeat. Will hears Wiseman laugh.
Huh? Wiseman. Wiseman?
Meaning that Will has technically heard his voice before and is probably able to put 2 and 2 together. Meaning that Chari is in the wrong for implying that it wouldn't make sense for Will not to know who Wiseman is.
Okay, fair enough. Though for future reference, you should probably show clips of the scene that goes against Chari's point, because all we have to go on here is your word. And we shouldn't have had to go through the game's cutscenes to confirm whether or not you were right.
That was nice, Journey of Dreams. Can I go now?
No.
Love how it's fine for you to send the video for a joke, but it's a bad thing when Chari does it.
Nothing personnel, kid.
Whoa, wait, what? Huh? Okay.
Allow me to educate you.
No!
Will and Helen's night dimensions have been merged, which has allowed the knights of both dimensions to merge into one. Now that Knights has dualized with both Will and Helen, the 2 knights have become separate again.
No, that is not what happened. First off, they never implied that the Nightopians ever merged. Not within the cutscene, nor any of the research that I and Luxter have done. The most they have is sharing Bridge. That's it. At this point, I'm wondering if you did any research or just magically made up about half of the story that you claim to know so much. Second, Once again, the night dimension isn't the Nighttopias. It's where the Nighttopias are taking place. Stop confusing the two. It still hurts. 3. There were never 2 nights. In fact, the game has been basically showing that has only been 1 throughout the entire story. After all, if there are 2 nights as you claim, why isn't there a night in Helen's world when Helen had to help Will get out of the Mirror Castle? Or why wasn't there a night in Will's world when Will had to help Helen get out of the casino area? Especially since in that case, Helen got injured. Especially since I know there is more than one level where you play as just Helen. And in both the 4th level of Helen's first world and in the 2nd level of Helen's 3rd world, you have to get back to Nights. And Nights is at the end of the levels for each of these. So now you have to magically explain how Nights is technically present in those levels, but not the other levels if there are 2 of them. Like, Tony, my man, it is saying something when the game you are defending is proving you wrong about this stuff. I know this better and I haven't played the game in years. How did you mess up this badly?
You know, for a drunk woman, that's quite the lengthy tangent.
The hidden rage of a diehard Journey Dreams fan burned the alcohol away.
And she's back.
Wow, Will's dad looks super happy to be with his son. It's bad enough that he looks like a goddamn Team America puppet.
Come on, dude. This game came out 15 years ago on the Wii. I think we can give it a little leeway in terms of graphics.
Just because it's old, that doesn't mean it aged well, and considering how this is supposed to show Will's heartwarming relationship with his father, then it's kind of a problem he's showing less emotion than a Muppet since it gives off the wrong implication.
And it's even funny when you remember that in the opening cutscene of Will's story, you get to see the dad and he smiles! So at this point, it's less of, oh, the Wii wasn't powerful enough to handle simple emotion, and more like the animators just decided to randomly be lazy with this scene.
Wait, he's smiling right there, too!
At this point, I have to wonder if I'm dying via lack of alcohol or lack of sanity.
Wait, you mean to tell me this isn't a dream? When the fuck has children's soccer games attracted this amount of people? God damn.
So fictional worlds can have fictional elements. Thanks, Mr. Realism.
So in other words, it's fictional, so shut up. You realize this is just dodging the point, right?
My arm, even my finger.
Calm down, you're drunk, not in pieces. Great, now I'm gonna have to find the polymerization.
I think this kid is having a seizure. Somebody should check that out.
Ignoring that you're pointing out something on the screen again.
Didn't stop you before!
I know he's not having a stroke because that's actually how Dark Tony jams to his music.
I do not.
Tony Sonic makes a reference cliche. Notice how that statement doesn't actually give advice on how to improve the character or skit in question, or even go into detail on what's wrong with it to begin with. Because this is the amount of critical death from Tony Sonic's critical video on Chari 5. Aside from that, you're actually trying to say it was bad for Chari to point out bad graphics because it's obvious. At this point, you're essentially saying that complaining in general is a sin, in which case, why on earth are you here?
And while graphics lucky in animation, we did not go to college just to see if you confuse the two.
Potato, potato.
So it's time to commit war crimes, I see.
Oh, you're back!
What? They got Knight's voice actress's name wrong! Holy shit, I know nothing about this game, but I know her name's Julissa Aguirre, not Julissa Aguirre.
Typos are not sins. They're nitpicks, and certainly nothing to cry about.
Hey, voice actor Carl Marone, can you come over here for a minute?
Caden Monroe, not Carl Monroe. Also, amateur voice actor.
Why should that matter? According to this guy, it's not a problem for a voice actor's name to be misspelled.
You realize that most voice actors need the credit they get from their roles to get more jobs, right? So, misspelling a voice actor's name is an issue since it causes confusion on who actually voiced them. Sure, it's not the end of the world, but it's still something to be considerate about. There's also pseudonyms. Sometimes people go with different names, but a majority of the time, people would like their actual names credited. It kind of works that way.
Also, you made a fatal mistake admitting that you know nothing about this game. With that knowledge, can we really trust you to say anything accurate about this game?
Yes, because clearly the man who is making up half of the lore that he shows off so proudly, like it's a participation award in elementary school, clearly has the right to be an ass about Chari not knowing much about the game. Yep, sure seems like that's logical to me.
Ignoring that, when Chari said, "I know nothing about this game," he was talking about the voice actor, which would imply that he knows nothing about the production of the game, rather than the story. Considering that he watched the cutscenes, he would at least know what the story showed him. And yes, he got some things wrong, but that doesn't mean he knows nothing about the game. Or if you insist on using those mistakes as proof, then he knows about as much as the game as you do, Mr. Nightmare on Elm Street.
I think I officially burned off the alcohol this time.
Well, you actually said alcohol properly, so I believe you.
Please tell me he only covers Will's story.
Nope, they cover Helen's story too. Do you want whiskey or bourbon?
Whatever makes me commit war crimes faster.
Knights here is able to dualize with visitors. The process allows your bodies to assimilate with one another.
What do you mean?
It would probably be much easier to understand if you just tried it. Go over and touch knights. You'll see what I mean. That is, of course, if you're interested in that sort of...
You know what? I've decided that I'm not even going to let Chari speak here, as to not kill anybody's ears. I know some people find it funny, and it's perfectly fine if you do, but I just don't. It's disgusting.
Fuck off! I'm actually going to play the original clips, that way you have the full context for your point. You're welcome.
Oh my god, that was so a fucking allegory for sex! They knew what they were doing!
Honestly, it would have been better to play this clip, because without it, I wouldn't have known that Chari actually screamed to the point of potentially hurting ears. So you mentioning how it would have hurt people's ears without at least playing the clip at a lower volume does nothing to help.
Also, I love how you're sending Chari because, oh, I don't like the humor. Because I've seen your video on Chari's No More Heroes parody, and I specifically remember this point.
This. And for you there holding the controller right now, just press the A button.
Breaking the fourth wall. Breaking the fourth wall is not a sin. Why? Because people like it when a game does that. Heck, it's practically what Suda51 is known for. Not just for No More Heroes, but also for his other games like Killer 7 and Lollipop Chainsaw. You're sinning something people like, douchebag.
So when Chari doesn't like a type of humor, he's a horrible person because other people like that type of humor. But when you don't like Chari's jokes, it's a sin with his video because you don't like it. That's the main problem I have throughout your entire channel, to be honest, where you hold Chari to this obnoxious double standard where he's not allowed to nitpick, make jokes, dislike jokes, point out the obvious, and overall just be a CinemaSins parody, while you go around and parade it like it's your bread and butter.
Buxer, we aren't at final thoughts yet. Slow down.
Oh, bold of you to assume those were my final thoughts.
You know, for a whatever Knights is, they have a pretty nice ass. This is a sin, of course, because a kid's game shouldn't be making me notice that sort of shit.
No one is making you notice anything.
The camera angle disagrees.
Besides, there's nothing wrong with a few subtle adult things in your kid-friendly games. I mean, hell, Crash 4 had a ton of them, and it still got away with a neat 10 rating.
Oh, so the game can get away with adult stuff, but it's a sin if Chari points it out. I see how it is.
I'm sorry, subtle references? That's about as subtle as Kanzaki's Angel Maid outfit. Or as subtle as a kid hugging a soccer ball to show that he's a soccer player.
You see that dark ocean over there? You'd be best off if you don't go anywhere near it.
You mean that ocean over there? With the black water?
No, you mean that dark ocean over there? The one Knights just explicitly referred to by name and pointed to? Also, it's a f***ing ocean there aren't many places to get it confused with?
Once again, you're being hypocritical. Not to mention she's like 12. Give her a break.
Just because she is young doesn't magically mean that she is also stupid. I'm pretty sure most kids learn what an ocean is by 12.
Even then, the scene's intent was clearly to give exposition, in which case it's the game talking down to the audience, which is the problem Chari had with this scene.
Normally, they act rather bright and cheerful, but they must be very scared of the Nightmarons at this moment.
Poor things.
According to them, Knights is being held in that prison over there.
What the f do you mean, according to them? Can't you see that Knights is trapped in there yourself? Knights is like 20 feet away from you!
He was clearly concerned about the Nightopians and had his full concentration on them and not Knights. That's why he didn't notice her.
Tony, in the same cutscene you were talking about, you see Owl looking in the direction that Knights was in at the start. Owl clearly knew where Knights was and he was staring at them moments before Helen walked into Nightopia. Did you even pay attention to the game, or were you ironically asleep for a chunk of it?
That red idiot is enough to take care of this cage. Come on, climb up here using that chain. Let's show these guys we mean business.
So, why isn't the Nightmare who's guarding the cage doing anything? They're literally on top of the cage, and I highly doubt it can't hear Helen and Knights talking.
To be fair, they are talking pretty quietly. Either that or the guard is deaf.
Loxer! Is this quiet?
I'm right next to you. You don't need to yell. It's not like I'm talking to you from the inside of a cage or anything.
So, if you die in the dream dimension, do you die for real? Because if so, yeah, no, Helen's dead.
Sorry, but no matter how much you beg and plead, video games will never be realistic.
So, Tony, remember your lovely little description of how Nightopia worked earlier?
And if their consciousness is killed here, they die in the real world. In other words, think A Nightmare on Elm Street.
So the world follows the you die in the dream, you die in real life rule. Except in this moment right here where normally Helen would have died from falling from a height that tall.
So either your initial explanation of how this place worked was wrong, or Helen should have been dead for good. Would you like Dr. Pepper or whiskey?
I like the fusion summit, even her malicious veins.
Ah, get that thing away from me!
The only problem with this theory is that it's fucking wrong!
Nightopia is a world that mirrors the heart of a visitor. That means it was your heart that created this place. Helen?
So, it's not real. If Nightopia only exists as long as Helen's sleeping and dreaming, what happens to the place when no one's around? Is it just nothing?
This place is real. Nothing in Knight's sentence ever suggested that it wasn't. All she said was that Nightopia is created from a visitor's heart, which is exactly what I said earlier.
You're the same man who kept confusing the Ninth Dimension and Nightopia. You are not making the world of Knights make any more sense. I used malicious vein effect and gained numbers by going nom nom nom.
While I'll concede that Chari's still wrong about how this place isn't real, what you said still didn't do anything to Chari's point. Since he's just asking that if the world exists when people are dreaming, then does it actually exist, or is it just a dream? It's the if a tree falls into a forest but nobody can hear it doesn't make a sound question.
The only problem with this theory is that it's fucking wrong!
Have you, or have you not, seen knights wear a mask like mine? This mask here is called a persona.
You never see it come
Funny, but it's still a reference that isn't affiliated with this game. Plus, this game came out 10 years before Persona 5, so if anything, Knights thought of the idea first.
Even when the joke's funny, it's a problem with Chari's video. Is there no pleasing you? You know, I'm taking the shot. Her and Nick are gonna be too angry to get drunk. Thanks? I guess?
Also, just because Persona 5 came out after Journey of Dreams, that doesn't mean people are forbidden from making joke references to it.
What?
Chari finds child endangerment funny, and I am not okay with that. Pretty sure he thought the scream was funny. It's really not.
You're not allowed to laugh at badly voice-acted scenes because I don't think it's funny. But you're also not allowed to dislike fourth-wall jokes because I and other people find them funny. Don't you know I am the arbiter of humor?
Buckster, join me. Together with your Lin Witches and Lion Heroes, we can rule the Ninth Dimension.
I already told you I don't drink.
You need to believe in your friends, Helen. You said you were good friends, right? Then you've got to believe in them. If you trust in your friend, then that trust is sure to get through. Maybe this is why you and I ran into each other again. Well, thank you. I'll try to keep that trust, because we are friends.
Yeah.
I get that these stories are supposed to be happening simultaneously, but does that mean they're two different Knights? I don't think Knights would be able to juggle both Will and Helen at the same time.
Boy, does it show that you know nothing about this game. As I said earlier, every person has their own separate Knight dimension, meaning their own Knights as well.
Alright everyone, back to lore.
I have already explained about how the night dimension isn't the same as Nighttopias that are within it as long as there's only one night. You are even playing a cutscene where Knife is absent because they are captured again after Riella sent Helen to Will's Nightopia. Like, how do you?
Each person has a different Nightopia, yes, but there was only one night dimension. It's like the TV dimension in Persona 4. It's all one big area, but when a person gets chucked into it, then the area morphs around their current hangups.
Did you actually play the game or even do any research for hopping into this video? Or did you just see Charlie make a video and it gave you and you immediately went into fanboy mode? God. Look, this just gives me similar vibes back to what I covered Mark Yamamoto, and I'm letting you know this right now, Tony. That's not a good thing.
At least Tony's not trying to wage war against the Sonic fandom or something.
A boy? You mean to say you've met another visitor?
Well, yes. Is that all right?
Oh. Well, typically, visitors are unable to encounter one another while in their respective worlds. I fear that this may be an ill omen for this world. Well, since a visitor's memory fades away after waking up, it may not be an issue.
See, this is kind of what I'm talking about. This pretty much confirms that there are two versions of the Night Dimension characters, meaning that what happens in these worlds is really of little consequence.
No! What happens here is very important. The Night Dimension manifests the problems within a person's heart, and if those problems are not dealt with, they will destroy the heart of said person. I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm saying the same stuff a lot, but Chari literally spends a third of his video trying to find ways to justify his "it's not real" theory, so I can't exactly ignore it.
I am so fucking tired. Luxter, you take this. I'm just going to go cause chaos with Bane. You have fun.
So, where did it say that losing all of your Idia destroys your soul? The closest thing we have is Owl saying,
Retrieve the remaining 4 Idia, and your heart will win out over Nightmare.
Which doesn't necessarily mean your soul is doomed without all the Idia, it just means you beat the nightmares. The only thing that's explicitly stated to shatter your soul is the Dark Ocean, but that's it. The most this Idia does is help their character development, so Chari's not wrong about how what happens here is of little consequence. That said, Chari is wrong about how there are two separate versions of Knight's characters, since when Helen told Owl about her encounter with Will, she didn't mention him by name. She only said she met a boy, which is so vague that it could refer to anyone. And since this is a sequel to Nights into Dreams, we know that these two aren't the only people who can enter the Night Dimension, so it's more than possible Owl didn't know who she was talking about. And even then, if there were two separate dimensions and Will and Helen were able to visit each other in these worlds, that would imply this place exists since, well, both Will and Helen exist and they never met each other until after they saved Nightopia.
Wow, this concert hall is just like the one in my town. You know, I play the violin actually. I'm pretty good at it too.
Even Helen, who was way more English sounding than Will, has changed her accent. What?
Okay guys, one thing you need to understand about ranting is that it's only funny if it's something worth ranting about, and accent changes aren't even worth crying about.
That's incredibly subjective. There are people out there who enjoy watching people rant about petty things in media. Like, isn't that the whole appeal of CinemaSins to begin with? Watching people rant about petty things in a snarky way. Whether or not you like it is one thing, but the fact CinemaSins videos range from getting 100,000 to millions of views shows that what one considers to be worth ranting about is a matter of opinion. Though if we're going to act like we should only rant about things that are worth ranting about, then what would be considered worth it? Would getting onto someone for making references be worth ranting about? Would complaining about people finding something funny be worth ranting about? Would complaining about someone getting lore for an obscure Wii game wrong be worth ranting about? And if so, why is that more worth ranting about than criticizing the voice acting in a video game for being inconsistent? This whole chain is petty at the end of the day, since it's based off one person not liking how another person talks about video games, yet in spite of this, you're telling Shari he needs to rant about things that are worth ranting about.
Luxter, are you sure you don't want to take over the Night Dimension with me?
I am the Night Dimension!
The only problem with this theory is that it's fucking wrong!
Hold up, how old is Helen supposed to be? They make it seem like her and her mom got to the concert separately, but why? Wouldn't her mom take her to the concert if they were supposed to be going together? I understand responsibility, independence and all, but I don't think Helen's old enough to be doing things on her own yet.
Well, the dream sequence earlier did show Helen walking with her friends without an adult, so maybe her mom does trust her enough to be responsible on her own. I know that was a dream and all, but in this game, dreams reflect the reality these characters live in.
But why would Helen's mom not simply take her daughter to the concert? Especially since they are both performing there? Like, on the one hand, yeah, there is a message about Helen has learned from her experiences in the night dimension and all of that. But on the other hand, this kind of makes Helen's mom look bad. Says, why would she not bring her own daughter to such an important event like her concert? Especially since there is probably a difference between going shopping with your friends and running from your home to the concert hall. Especially since if Helen had to run there in order to make it in time, that probably implies the concert hall wasn't just a hop, skip, and a jump away.
Also, those friends she was allegedly with, yeah, they were in the concert hall during the performance cheering Helen on. And given how they didn't show up with her, your scenario is rather unlikely.
The only problem with this theory is that it's fucking wrong!
Come on. Let's show him what our courage can do.
Yeah, that was the only Idia that mattered, wasn't it? Think about it, did we ever do anything with the other Idias? We just collected them and that's it. The red Idia of Courage helped Will and Helen fly without knights and even rescue knights a bunch of times when they got captured.
While I admit they do put more emphasis on the Idia of Courage more than the others, they still matter since they make up this world.
So, they are keys. They are just functionally keys. If 3 of the Idia are just there to basically gain access to the other Nighttopias and Hope basically does jack and shit in the story, then in comparison to the Idia of Courage, they are just basically plot devices. Heck, in comparison to the red Idia, where you get a line of dialogue from either Will or Helen asking for their parents to give them courage before the last level, tying into their main conflicts, the others either get just a small line that doesn't really connect to them as much, or again, in the case of Hope, jack and shit.
Sure, the plot itself gives lip service about how Idia makes the user's heart grow stronger every time they collect them, but A, this is all explained to you from the characters rather than having the characters gaining purity, intelligence, growth, and hope on their own, or having them show those characteristics as they progress throughout the level. And B, it still dodges the overall issue that the Idia of Courage seems to be the only one that does anything rather than just be a plot device.
Okay, in Will's perspective, this is kinda cute. He stumbles upon Helen by chance, hearing her play Dreams Dreams, and someone happened to turn off all the lights. But from Helen's perspective, this is terrifying. Who turned off the lights in the middle of her playing the violin? Where did her mom go after the lights turned off? We never see her in either Will nor Helen's perspective after that.
Who turned off the lights doesn't matter since it's very brief, and Helen's mom probably went to go turn the lights back on. Now shut up and let them have their moment.
You know, for someone who makes these videos for critique, you seem more interested in telling Chari to shut up every time he dares say something negative.
Because clearly comforting your daughter because she got scared by lights going off is less important than turning said lights back on. Mother of the year, everyone!
Also, how would the mom be able to turn the lights on in a stadium? It's not like she works there or anything.
And that's the last sin. Thank God. You want to go first, Yvonne, or should I just finish the war crisis I started in the background?
Oh, please. Ladies first.
With pleasure. So, Tony, if I can be honest, this video made me more mad than I was expecting. Like, I think I nearly got to the levels of mad I had when I was watching Marcus Yamamoto's video on me, and that's saying a lot. Well, I am not going to exactly claim you on Marcus's exact level of fanboyism when it comes to a game that you like. I am also not going to deny that I can't help but get that vibe whenever you complain about Chari getting something wrong, only for you to get something wrong in the same breath. Like, dude, I asked this at least twice, and I will ask again. Did you even research the game before you decided to jump into this video? Because from confusing the night dimension with the Nighttopias to trying to explain how there are 2 Nighties when the game showed that wasn't the case, it feels like you didn't even pay attention to the game that you were so willing to defend from Chari's assumptions on it. In fact, while I will admit that Chari got some things wrong, I bet if Charlie actually watched this video, you would only raise more questions than answers. I know I certainly felt that way when watching and having to fact check this video, and I'm the weirdo who still has a perfect memory of this game stuck in my head when I played it as a 10-year-old. What also doesn't help is how you treated Atari in the most assholest way possible when the worst he did was either A, make jokes with certain points that you didn't like to the point where I took a total of 19 shots. Yes, I did keep count. Or B, ask questions about the world of the game because he was confused by how it was described in the game. Look, I know that both me and Luxter might have come off as jerks here and there. I mean, I am a mad drunk currently. However, at least when we're doing it, it's just throw a jab at your points. Here, it feels less like you want to throw jabs, and more like you, at best, have an extreme dislike for Chari. Honestly, it makes the videos even more unbearable, and quite frankly, seeing you cover Chari so much, and it makes you the guy that people thought manga comment was back when he used to cover a lot of game theory videos, I can't blame you. They think you're lying when you say that you don't like Chari or his content. Look, if you still want to cover Chari's content, then fine, I guess. Then do your research about the games that you are covering, and don't be an ass about how Chari does his CinemaSins parodies. If you can't handle that, then I am advising you to stop focusing on his content. Because while you may say that you don't dislike Chari or his content, your actions are speaking otherwise.
Most of Tony Sonic's points fall into 3 categories: acting like an expert on Knight's lore while having no evidence to back it up, getting onto Chari for things that are inherently common with the CinemaSins format, which would be fine if he wasn't using the same nitpicky repetitious format to criticize repetition and nitpicks, and the one that annoyed me the most, frequently telling Chari to shut up and stop complaining. Whether it be downplaying Chari's complaints towards the voice acting or graphics, or literally telling him to shut up. It really shows how much of a farce that disclaimer is. You're making these videos for criticism, because it seems like you're less interested in pointing out what Chari got wrong so he can improve, and are more interested in him just staying silent so he doesn't say anything bad about your precious video game characters. Oh, speaking of, I've seen your video on Chari's No More Heroes parody, and that had an unneeded amount of vitriol for somebody who just got things wrong while talking about video games. I already showed the fourth wall humor example, but I assure you that was far from the only one.
So you decided to send No More Heroes, huh? Look, I get it. The 3rd game's coming out next month and you want to capitalize on that. That's fine and all, but after you failed so hard with the Wonderful 101, you want to touch No More Heroes? Pfft, get out of town. In order to be the best, you have to fight the best. That's practically the rule of life. And to be mean shows just how dumb you really are. Besides, if you want to have an easier time with the game's rising difficulty, you need to go there, unless you want to challenge yourself, in which case just play the game on better mode, or you're stupid. And given how this video is gone, in your case, I'm pretty sure it's the latter. Also, I can't be the only one who notices that you've been an ass towards literally everyone in this game. I know these are fictional characters, but you still called them some awful things. Now, I know what some of you are going to say, but Tony Sonic, you've taken a few shots at Chari as well. Yeah, but only when something is so painfully obvious that you'd have to have an IQ lower than Odie the dog to not understand.
It's okay for me to insult you because you insult fictional characters, and you're stupid. Yeah, I don't buy your disclaimer about how you don't hate Chari. Particularly because you're putting the non-existent feelings of fictional characters above Chari's existence. And more so because one look at your channel shows you're milking the guy dry in terms of content, since most of your videos are CinemaSins parodies on his videos with the occasional countdown here and there. My advice would that be if you're going to criticize somebody, try and change your format so you don't end up being the exact same thing you criticize your target for, and also try to be a bit more constructive with your criticism. Also, unless you want to be known as the guy who constantly harps on Chari, try to diversify your channel more, since if you look at the difference between your countdowns views and your Chari rants, people are clearly coming to you for the latter.
So, that's done. You okay?
Well, it's better than being in jail, I guess.
Well, about that...
Oh, come on!
Look, it's not a guarantee. You just have to get past the duelist and death and the Dark World army outside of this castle. And, I can only hold back Skull Knight for so long.
Okay. I activate my field spell, Secret Village of the Spellcaster, and then I'll use the effect of Wind Witch Ice Spell to special summon it from my hand.
Bitch! That was my fucking castle! What the fuck?
Oh, please, you have more of those cards. I'm sure you'll draw into it eventually. Anyway, gotta go. Bye!
Wait, no, get the fuck back here! You are paying for fucking with my Nightopia!
Good. Great. Awesome. Outstanding. Amazing. I'm so glad that I'm relegated to end credits once again. Thanks, Azzy and Luxter, for leaving me to dry in a video on Tony Sonic, not getting the guy whose name is Tony in the Clown Palace. I don't even know who to be mad at more. Azzy and Luxter for not getting me, Tony Sonic for sharing my name, or my mom for not naming me anything else? Why wasn't Vincent a good enough name, Mom? I hope the Sonic Adventure video is better.